Hello, this is Rue from Rutastic Paints, replacing Rab, the boring old fart. I am French, this is why I sound like this. I think that's enough of this. Come on, off this chair. Down. Right, now that that usurper has gone, what's up guys, it's Rab here from Rutastic Paints. Now, recently I was going through my boxes and boxes and boxes of unpainted minis, looking for some orcs to paint for Orktober. Because, you know, Orktober's not just a 40k and Age of Sigmar thing, even if they spell orc wrong. And that was when I realised that I had a lot of unpainted orcs in my collection, both regular orcs and Moranans as well. And that was when I had the genius idea of using SlapChop to get all of these orcs painted quickly. For those who don't know what SlapChop is, it's where you prime your model in black, dry brush it with grey and then white, then paint it with speed paints or contrast paints. It's also incredibly algorithm friendly, so I'm hoping that SlapChop for Orktober will give me some views. Now, a few people have been asking about my magnetic bases. The ones I use, which I'll link below, are the Warmag magnet circles from the magnetshop.co.uk. They make them for infantry, cavalry and monster size for MESBG, as well as I'm sure ones for 40k and Age of Sigmar. Then I attach all of my minis to an A4 magnetic sheet, and that's how I prime them. With the minis primed, it's just a case of dry brushing them. Now, I'm not great at dry brushing, and it seems to be even worse when I use Citadel paints. The grey I'm using here to dry brush is Administratum Grey, and as you see, it works okay. It highlights all the details. You can see all of the folds in the clothes, all of the dents in the armour and all the scratches. It's really good for what you want to do. You want very little of the model to be left over black, because speed paints and contrast paints don't really go well over black, so you want to make sure almost everything's grey, just the deepest recesses are black. You'll notice here that I've switched over to white paint. I've actually just skipped the grey step completely because it wasn't really doing anything for me. I don't know if it's the grey paint that I'm using, but when I switched over to the bold titanium white from Procryl, it was 10 times better. I don't know if it's just better paint for dry brushing or if the white just makes it look better, but in future when I SlapChop, I'm not going to do a grey layer, I'm going to go straight to white. For one of the other minis, I actually decided to try something different because when you're painting 24 minis, you might as well try something different. So I dry brushed this with purple and then a lighter purple. I think it was Xerius purple and then Genestealer purple, I think that's what they're called, to see if that would make a difference. Maybe it would give it some sort of scary Halloweeny undertones. And then it was just the long arduous task of dry brushing the rest of the minis. Now this was probably the longest step of the lot. Not as enjoyable as painting, so it sort of drags in. And one thing I will say is, if you have not removed any of the mould lines on your minis, which I don't think I've ever done in my life, they will really show up when you dry brush them with white. They stick out quite a bit, so keep one of the files or one of the dull blades on hand if you're interested in removing your mould lines. Now, the one problem with SlapChop is you can't really do anything with metallics. Well, you can if you have metallic speed paints, which I don't have, but if anyone from Army Painter is watching, I would love to try them out, so you know, send me some free stuff. So what I just decided to do was paint my metallics regularly with Lead Belcher and then wash them with Agrax Earthshade. Now for the painting, you can use whatever speed paints or contrast paints you enjoy using. For the exposed skin of all of the orcs, I used Plaguebearer Flesh, which is a great colour for Tolkien orcs. Maybe not bright enough for some 40k orcs, but definitely good enough for these ones. For the clothing of the orcs, I used a mixture of different browns. Yeah, it's a common joke, but MESBG is a very brown tabletop game, and the orcs were no exception. Added a little bit of colour here and there just to brighten things up, but a lot of snakebite leather, Gore-grunter fur, and Cygor brown was used across the palette, with, like I said, little splashes here and there. And then the next hour or so was just painting. That's how simple SlapChop is. Like, just sit back, put a podcast on, and throw some paint on some minis. There's no complicated techniques at work here. Speed painting is about as easy as it comes. You're pretty much just paint within the lines. You don't need to worry about highlights, you don't need to worry about recess shading or blending or any of those fancy techniques. You just sit back, chill, and paint the colours you want to paint. Now, earlier on this week, I announced that I'm starting up my Patreon. I've actually been working on it for about 2 years, ever since I was streaming on Twitch, and I've already got my first patron. Thank you so much, Dan, for being the #1 fan. Greatly appreciate your support, mate. Thank you very much. All I can offer you guys on the Patreon is early access to my videos and access to my Discord, which I'm working on, and should hopefully be a fun place to hang out and chat. And then, once all the models were fully painted and then washed with Agrax Earthshade, because these are dirty, filthy orcs, it was just time to base them. Now, this model here is the one that was dry brushed with purple. I don't think it actually made that much of a difference. There's some bits of purple showing through, but when you look at the rest of the models, they all look very similar. So I don't think the purple and light purple SlapChop is going to be one of my special techniques going forward. But yeah, what else can you say? It's a very simple technique, but it gets your models painted quickly and it gets them on the table so you can play more games. So if you sign up last minute to a tournament, you don't need to rush about like a madman. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know your thoughts on SlapChop and if you think it's a decent technique or if you'd like to see more of it in the future. Until next time, take care.